Hello again, and thank you for joining us on the Move In Mindset podcast. Today, we will be discussing the role credit plays in the mortgage application process. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Move In Mindset. I am your host, Karen Jones, and today, of course, we have Mr. Mark Dewitt, who is my senior loan officer, and we are being joined again by Jasmine Turner. So today we are going to be discussing credit. And this is the most important aspect of the buying process because the reality is if you don't get past credit, nothing else really matters, right? So what we endeavor in this episode today is just break down credit, its importance, what it says about you, and how lenders use it to determine whether or not you can buy. Mark, credit.
First thing we do after we've got the application, we start looking at credit. And when we're looking at credit, we're looking in the first section to really look at what lines of credit you have.
Right.
What's a line of credit? Credit cards, personal loans, car loans, student loans. These are all lines of credit. And typically you want to have minimum 3 to 4 credit lines and not 25 different credit cards, although we do look at credit reports that have that many credit lines. So we want to make sure that all those things are being paid on time. So that's going to be the first element of the credit report that we're going to look at.
So as a lender, when we pull credit report, and it's important for you viewers to see, the first thing that we see is your credit score. And credit scores are an indication of what we can anticipate that we're going to see on your credit report. If I see a 750 credit score, then I know that I'm going to see probably very few trade lines and no delinquencies whatsoever. On the flip side of that, if I see a 500 credit score, I know that we have some challenges. So I'm already trying to develop a plan as to, okay, what am I going to see and how do we maneuver to see if this, with that credit score, is even possible. One thing that I tell my clients when we are pulling credit is that my thing is credit stands for credibility.
Absolutely.
So a lender is assessing you from a risk perspective to determine whether or not, based on your credit, if you're going to pay me back. It's a trust thing. It plays into, sometimes people could go as far as say, the moral fiber of who you are. If I borrow something and I don't pay it back, does that make me trustworthy? If I borrow something and I do pay it back, then someone would deem me trustworthy, would you not say?
Absolutely.
So this morning, you and I were looking at a credit report, right? And albeit this particular buyer had some leaks some years ago, those things from a couple of years ago are impacting their ability to buy right now.
That they are.
Do you recall what I told you about their car notes and paying those car notes late?
Yes. So with them paying their car notes late, the ones that are going to roll off, and eventually in a year, they still have 2 remaining. Now, depending on how much money they can put down, they might still be qualified. But once again, that plays into a whole big factor.
Absolutely.
And how I look at credit, I feel like coming from the application episode, the application is our foundation. You have to have the correct spelling, the correct address, everything has to be correct on the application so we can build that credit. I feel like credit is more like a house. How many windows you want to have, how many open accounts you have.
That is a great analogy.
How many debts are going to be in there? How many collections or derogatory closed accounts are going to be in that house? So I feel like credit is the house part to that foundation of application.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so when people come to me and you, Mark, and Jasmine, and we're evaluating credit, all we're doing is assessing risk.
Yeah, and also that the people that are going to be looking at your file, the underwriters, people that are accessing that, they don't know you.
They do not.
So your credit is kind of like trying to get into a college. It's like your report card.
Right.
If you got all A's, you're probably going to get into any school. We're going to give you a loan. If you got some C's and B's, probably still might be able to get you there. You get them D's and the F's, trust me, we might not be able to get you in.
Right.
So again, it's really the report card that helps us to do an assessment. And obviously, the better you've done, the better opportunity you're going to have to be qualified for that loan.
And like you said, people, and not just us, because we're the first people that see your credit report, they make an assessment about who they think you are.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have an opportunity to ask you questions. Why did this happen? How did this come to be? What did you do to fix it? Why did you pay this late? And not that they don't care, but their job is to protect the lender's money, right? Because you're not coming to ask for a $250 credit card. You're not coming to ask for a $15,000 car loan. We are accessing hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if we can't get past the credit piece, then our efforts are going to be delayed. And I say delayed because credit can be fixed. That's the beautiful and undeniable thing about credit, but that comes with time. And people have to be okay with saying, or understanding rather, when we say your efforts and your desire to buy a house are going to be delayed because there's some things that we need to address on the credit. And that is not a bad thing, because this podcast is about a mindset, a move-in mindset. So we have to take on the mindset of handling our credit with intentionality, saving with intentionality, paying our bills on time with intentionality. So credit is, I would say, the pinnacle of this whole process, because the money part we can work around.
Right, and it's never a question of if you can buy a house. It's typically when, and sometimes we're impatient, not just as individuals, but as a society. We want it now, and we don't understand sometimes why you can't have it right now. But we never tell you you can't have it, and as you just explained, you have to have the intentional activities that are going to get you to the place where you then will be able to be qualified. And we as a team are here to support you, because as we look at the information on your credit report, we will bounce it off each other to make sure that our analysis of it is actually compliant with the guidelines that we use, because the way that we look at your credit is really based on the guidelines from those who actually buy loans, Fannie, Freddie, FHA, VA, USDA, and those are what we're actually comparing that to, the guidelines that were required in order to approve your loan. So as I always tell people, Mark Dewitt wants to give you every loan you can, because I don't get paid till I get a loan, but Fannie Mae may not want you to have a loan at this time. So always the intentionality, as Karen just explained, is really important. So when you come to us, number one, we are your partners throughout this process. If it takes 3 months, 6 months, a year, do not fret. We are going to get there. It's always a matter of when. So if you are committed to the process and will basically buy into the information and suggestions and recommendation we give, we will get you into home ownership. But you have to make it intentional about it. Wouldn't you agree, Jasmine?
I agree. And Mark and Karen, as a former debt collector for 5 years, this is the time that you pick up those phone calls from those collection agencies and make a payment. If you're not ready and it's just delay, not denial, prepare yourself to be ready. Go ahead and take, if you have to take 6 months to a year, go ahead and set up payment arrangements to get yourself in line to buy.
Right. Because you want to present, just like going on a date, you want to present the best version of you. Because like I said earlier, people are making an assessment about who they think you are according to what they see on this paper. And it could be false. You know, it's like the old adage when you made the comment about, if you do the things that we suggest, if you follow our instructions, because we're never going to leave someone hanging, not me. One thing we will do is, if we are going to advise you of your delay in your efforts to buy, we're going to tell you step by step what you need to do to align yourself and put yourself in position to receive that yes later down the road. But like the old adage says, I can lead the horse to the water, but I can't make them drink. And I know you've heard this, and I know you've heard this too. My mama didn't teach me about credit. No one taught me about credit. But the reality is, why does someone have to teach you about credit when it's all about trustworthiness?
Yeah.
If I go to you and I say, Jasmine, I need to borrow $20.
You know what, Karen? I'm gonna need you to pay me back.
Okay. So we are in agreement.
We are.
We are contractually in an agreement, right? And then payday comes, because I told you I'm gonna pay you on the 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Then I call you on the phone and I say, hey, Jasmine, can't pay you right now. Something else came up.
Okay.
I'm gonna get you next week. During that conversation, you might say, okay, because you don't have no other choice. You can't strong arm me for the money. Right. But when I pay you back, if I come back to you again, are you going to think twice about giving me $20?
Not at all.
Right.
Right.
You might be like, Karen, don't pay on time. But the flip side of that is, if I come in and say, Jasmine, can I borrow $20? And you say yes, and I give it back to you on the day that I said I was, now we have created a trust bond.
Right.
Karen does what she says that she's going to do.
Absolutely.
Right? But I want to go back to that first scenario, because this is where the kind of debt collector thing comes in. If I borrow $20 and the day comes and I can't pay you, but I call you 5 days in advance and say, hey, Jasmine, I know I was supposed to pay you on the 15th. Right. However, I got a hole in my tire, and I gotta, in order for me to get to work, I gotta address that first. Do you mind if I adjust the pay date? Could you respect that more?
I can respect
than
that.
me calling you on the day or not calling you at all and saying I'm not gonna pay you.
I can respect that more.
So this is the point that we're trying to make, guys. All credit is about whether or not the lender, Mortgage Solutions, or whoever you are aligning yourself with for this home buying process, if they can make an assessment about whether or not they can trust you to pay them back. And that's what your credit says. Now, credit is looked at differently depending on the loan product, and we're going to talk about that in future episodes. But right now, what we want to do is just lay the baseline for you guys as to the role that credit plays, why it's important, and so that you understand that this is all about risk. It's not about anything else other than, can I trust you to pay us back? And they make that determination by how you have paid other people. Right? So, Mark, you said, I want to give you the money. I want to give you the money. Jasmine.
We always want to give you the money.
We always want to give you the money. We don't want to call anybody and say, hey, not right now. But
you have to make sure you can pay us back.
Yeah, we have guardrails that we have to work within.
Absolutely.
So all that we ask is that if you come into this process and you are not fully prepared from a credit perspective, be willing to listen. Look at the carnage, because sometimes credit looks like carnage, wouldn't you say, Mark?
Absolutely. And I don't think people should be fearful, which is a lot of times about going, and Jasmine and I were talking about this early, get a copy of your credit report by going on and getting a annual free credit report. This will give you an opportunity, even before you come to us, to review your credit for errors, omissions, or anything that may be incorrect. You can get a head start on this. So, and to communicate, as Karen was saying with Jasmine, about with your creditors, when there are situations that may prevent you from paying on time, that you communicate with them and not be fearful that, oh my God, they're going to do X, Y, Z. They want to get paid back just like we want to get paid back. The difference is we're making a 30-year contract with them versus a 5-year car loan or a personal loan for 2 to 3 years. So that is why when you go through this process, it is going to be the most involved process that you ever buy, because home ownership is probably the most expensive thing that most people will ever buy in their life. So we want to make sure that in this transaction that we've got an agreement of the integrity that, number one, we've analyzed it and said, yes, you're capable of doing this, and B, we're going to lend you the money so you can own the house that you want.
In a nutshell, first thing, come off your phone. In a podcast. Sorry about that, Jack.
All right.
But in a nutshell, when you are ready to buy a house, or if you think you're ready to buy a house, one of the first things you want to assess is where you think you are from a credit perspective.
Mhm.
If you are unsure, this is where you call us. If you don't know what your credit looks like, call us. Let us walk you through the process,
Absolutely.
review, analyze, examine, assess where you are.
Mhm.
And if you are not ready, we can guide you to where you want to be. Would you say that's what it's all about, guys?
Absolutely.
All right, Mark.
I think that about covers it all, Karen.
Do you have any final words for our viewers?
Don't be afraid to talk to your creditors. Don't be afraid to get a copy of your free credit report, which you can get online from all three bureaus, and look at your credit, because obviously buying a home is a lot different than a lot of other purchases you'll make, and it's going to be one of the most involved. So start early. Contact us as soon as you think, hey, I might want to buy a house in 6 months, a year from now. That's the time to really get involved, because that gives us the time that we need to really assist you in making sure that you're home ready when we do get ready to buy.
Correct. So again, it's not about if, but
When?
all right. Jasmine, do you have any final words, honey?
You have to be ready to take the first step. It's never a denial, but sometimes a delay. But we are here to carry you along the way.
I love it. So this is the wrap on our credit episode of the Move-In Mindset. We thank you all so much for joining us. We hope that you are enjoying and learning from this content, because that is the whole reason why we're doing this. We ask you to subscribe, to share, to comment. If you have any specific questions, put them in the comment section. We will address them. But until the next episode, you guys take care and take care of yourself.
Thank you for joining us today. And make sure to come back, where we will be addressing the top 10 most frequently asked questions on credit. So if you like, subscribe, or have any questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us. And if you'd like an application, come join us again.